You've heard of NES, right? The Nintendo Entertainment System, an 8-bit game console from the 80s that a lot of crusty old nerds reminisce about and swear it's the best thing ever. Nostalgic old fools! How could these Stone Age relics possibly stand up to masterpieces of later times? Well, they can, but only if you've got the kind of taste where dated graphics as well as lack of modern game mechanics and scale aren't deal breakers. It's tough to gauge exactly how much nostalgia factor there is though, because NES happens to be the console that I personally started my gaming career with some 30 years ago, when I was about a 5-year-old little boyo. One of the games I had the most fun with in my childhood years as well as later years was Super Contra, or Super C as it was known in the US. The NES was known for its relatively high difficulty levels, but this is not one of the most difficult NES games in my opinion. We can talk difficulty in a minute, but first let's take a look at what this game is about and what in the blazes it's doing on the top 100 list. Super Contra is a platformer game where you control a commando who decides to drop into enemy territory and single-handedly blast his way through the enemy encampments and installations, massacring their troops and blowing everything up. You can shoot to the sides, shoot up, shoot at angles, jump, and even shoot into any direction while jumping. You can also magically change your direction in mid-air. If it's not wizard stuff, then he is controlled by powerful magnets tucked in his trousers. What you don't know yet is that the enemy is ready for you and you're about to start getting punished for your arrogance. You're initially armed with a rifle, but you can shoot down these floating capsules that appear in predetermined spots and pick up more useful alternate weapons. All the enemies are predetermined to appear as well, and sometimes they keep spawning with a timer even if you're standing still and not scrolling the screen forwards. The faster you press on, the more busy your screen will be. Man, there's a lot to keep track of, especially since one hit from literally anything is lethal. The level of difficulty is something that's often debated. There's always the personal factor of how good you are naturally at these kind of platformer games. Some people are phenomenal at picking these games up and just getting good in a single evening. Others declare these games impossible to finish, even after extensive practice. I can only use my own experience in NES games and other similar games to say that this is not the hardest platformer game out there by a large margin. If you decide to give this a go and immediately end up losing all your lives on level 1 before advancing very far, don't panic. As you play on, you'll start noticing patterns, and by relying on those patterns you no longer need to rely solely on your reflexes. For example, if you see something on the screen that looks like a mounted turret, duck down while shooting at it so you don't have to time a jump correctly to dodge the bullet. This works great until something comes along that you don't recognize as a turret before it shoots you down. Damn. Now here's the real kicker that's typical in NES games. You have limited chances to continue from the same spot when you die. What that means is you have 3 lives, and when you lose them, you lose 1 continue and get sent to the start of the level. You only have 3 continues, and when those are gone, the game sends you back to the start screen. All your progress is wiped. Yes, back to the start, go on your bike. It can feel pretty infuriating, especially to anyone accustomed to games with unlimited continues and constant checkpoints. It's important to note, however, that this isn't a super long game overall. You could finish this for sure within an hour, if you don't run out of lives and get to keep your preferred weapon all the way through. The logic behind having limited continues goes something like this. Game is hard, so you need to practice to make it through all the way with limited attempts. Sending you back to level 1 when continues run out ensures that you start to gain the necessary muscle memory to complete the first level without dying. You will gain the same level of confidence for completing level 2, and after each successfully memorized level, you have more continues to spend on the following levels. Yeah, it's kind of a flimsy logic, but bear in mind that back in the NES days, most gamers had 1,000 times less options on what to play, so when you got a new game, you most likely had to stick to it for a long time. It was just one way to make the game last longer. We also wanted to be the first among our peers to finish the game, and since a lot of us had the same consoles and games, it was always sort of a race. Plus, there's the amazing feeling when you finally finish the game after trying so hard for weeks or even months. Very exciting for a young kiddo. Alright, time to check what kinds of weapons there are. There's only a handful of different weapons, so let's check them out in order from least powerful to most powerful. The basic rifle shoots one bullet at a time, and a lot of enemies take a very long time to bring down with it. Basic soldiers still die from one hit at least, so if you die and lose one of the more powerful weapons, you're not completely screwed, just almost completely screwed. The M symbol stands for machine gun, which gives you auto fire. Just press the fire button and hold it to release an infinite stream of shots. No reloads, no nothing, just this beautiful rhythmic barrage of death. The F symbol gives you a flamethrower which shoots an exploding ball that spreads into 4 directions. I find this kinda handy, but the rate of fire can be a bit slow to deal with enemies rapidly approaching from multiple directions. The L symbol gives you a laser beam which deals the most damage in the game but is pretty difficult to use effectively. It shoots a stream of energy that hits the enemy like a truck, but it has quite a long travel time. In addition to that, only one beam can exist on the screen at one time. I find this to be most handy for killing bosses. Finally, there's the S symbol, which most players will be actively looking for. It gives you spread gun, which fires a ton of bullets in a large cone-shaped area. This makes short work of pretty much anything in the game and gives you a whole new feeling of safety because it's like a wall of damage you can hide behind. It also makes everything easier to hit too, especially in these top-to-down type of levels. That's right, some stages are played from an entirely different point of view. You can keep your weapon when completing a level, allowing you to enter the next level with, for example, the spread gun, which might not even be obtainable until much later in the stage. One last pickup to mention is the R symbol, which enhances your current weapon. It stands for rapid mode, but basically it gives you more firepower. To make things easier regardless of which stage you're in, you want to think ahead to avoid getting cornered. Look at this situation right here. I accidentally caused the enemy to shoot a pattern of bullets that's virtually inescapable. That's another painful experience tucked away in the back of my head, allowing me to handle the situation better next time. One of the most useful skills to learn is to use jumping sparingly. It takes a long time to land back down after a jump, and oftentimes you can find another way out of trouble besides a jump that gives a better result. The stages sometimes allow you to be sneaky, like in the jungle stage you can dive underwater to avoid getting hit by enemies. Rambo stuff. I like the way the game makes you feel fragile and is a ride of ups and downs. In one moment you're pumped that you got lucky and got the spread gun despite also taking the flamethrower pickup which was on top of it, only to be deflated by the fact that you died 2 seconds after that. And then getting further deflated by immediately falling down a pit. Luckily the music gets you pumped right back into the action again. These riffs are like made to be played with an amplified guitar sound, and there's some amazing metal covers out there. The level design is very on point. A lot of platformer games have tons of annoying features like backtracking, dead ends and beginner traps that lead to nothing but frustration. Super Contra on the other hand, well, there's lots of difficult spots for sure, and a couple of spots that might feel like beginner traps, but it's mostly fair design. I like it. The first 4 levels are more military type stuff, but level 5 and especially level 6, 7 and 8 take an unexpected turn. Suddenly you're fighting xenomorphs. Yeah, all of a sudden you stumble into the lair of alien beasts with gaping maws and red glowing eyes. Look at those teeth! As a kid I was always scared stiff by this stage, and it keeps on getting even scarier in the second phase of the fight. Ah, get me out of here! And of course, I ran out of lives in this boss fight, so I gotta start over from the beginning of the entire game. Once you start to reach the end, the bosses in the final levels of the game are like these gigantic fortresses, spewing out all forms of destruction your way. And the very final boss is like some kind of mega crustacean that's burrowed its teeth into an enormous metallic severed woman's head. Her eyes open up in the beginning of the fight and never blink or close even when it's being destroyed. Best not to delve too deep into it, for I can already feel my brain cells slamming themselves against the inside of my skull. The beast is destroyed, and it's time for us to take a helicopter ride onwards to the next game on the list.